Hallo! Für alle unsere deutschen Gäste, das Panel wird in Englisch stattfinden, nur dass ihr schon mal Bescheid wisst.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the future of play, how gaming shapes digital cultures across generations. Topic is gaming has evolved from beyond entertainment and becoming a cultural and technological powerhouse that influences how people connect, consume content and interact across generations. And from Gen X's early days of arcade and console gaming to Gen Z's digital native social gaming experience, the industry continues to redefine engagement in the digital space. In this panel, we're going to talk about how gaming is shaping modern digital culture, influencing film, music, and corporate strategies, and connecting communities across multiple platforms. My name is Ann-Kathrin Kuhls. I'm the team lead video editorial for the GameStar GamePro YouTube channel. Normally, I talk about games. Today I get to ask the questions to my guests. Hello, nice to see you guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Would you like to introduce yourselves? Maybe you can start.
Yes, I can. Hi, my name is Melvin. Pleasure to be here. I'm working for Instinct 3, which originally is just an influencer marketing agency from Berlin, here in Spandau, where we focused on working with different content creators, most of them coming from gaming content, not all of them, some exceptions we do have. And from there on grew to be like a whole company group active in different things resolving around gaming and pop culture at most, meaning we are in esports with our content creators, having our own esports team. We are, and this is my job at the company, active as an indie publisher, where we serve as a publisher for young game studios, resolving around their games, helping them reach the audiences they want to reach. So we've hopefully can contribute a bit from our perspective to the panel, from the creator side of things and how the influencer marketing especially plays a critical role in the future of play.
Thank you, Melvin. My name is Mitsu. I work at Twitch. I work as a director for business development, specifically focused on gaming partnership. It's my first visit in Berlin. It's a beautiful city, beautiful venue. I'm really, really happy to be here. I really do apologize because I don't speak German. This panel is going to be conducted in English. I'm so sorry. But with that said, I'm really happy to be here to learn the buzz, the culture, the excitement that Berlin and the whole of Germany has to offer. And I'd love to share my insight into how Twitch is operating within this space and how hopefully we can work together to grow the community globally. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to pass you over to Carolyn.
Hi. Those are the nicest words I've ever heard about Berlin, in Berlin, so that's very nice. Hi. This is a great start. I'm working at CD Projekt Red, which is a globally active AAA video game development studio, most known for the Witcher franchise and Cyberpunk 2077. And I'm leading the international community team, so I'm working with different people around the world on how we communicate the game, how we work on social media, how we work with content creators as well. And that's why I also have worked with Mitsuo in the past, and yeah, I hope to shed some light on some things.
Thank you, and also thank you to GamesGround for curating and organizing this panel, and also for the Medien Board Berlin-Brandenburg for supporting GamesGround. So, let's talk about it. Gaming culture transcends generations and reshapes digital interactions. Meaning, if I pull up stats from the Gameverband, like fresh stats that were just released, 37.5 million Germans are gaming, which is more than ever, and the gamers over 60 grew from 6.4 to 7.7%. So the average gamer is getting older, and he is now 39.5 years. He used to be 38.2 years, 38.2 years in 2024. And 8 out of 10 gamers are over 18, so they either keep playing or they're rediscovering gaming. So, what are your experiences with that, since every generation still interacts differently with gaming?
Well, we make games that are only targeted at people over 18, so my experience is obviously from the perspective of someone where young people would like to play the games, but they can't legally. So in my experience, we actually bring a lot of people across different generations together, even at events we do, right? You have like 18-year-old people coming with their parents, sometimes with their their grandparents, which is really cool. And I think that's part of the beauty of gaming, that you also, if it's like online gaming, that you get to meet people that you would probably never mingle with in real life, and it can sort of destroy boundaries a bit. Of course, that comes with certain risks, but let's see it from the optimistic perspective that for generations, it's a nice way to have a common topic to talk about as well.
And also, I think, just when you look at it from when gaming initially started, like in 70s or 80s perhaps, obviously it was something for the younger people back then, like going to arcade, playing with your friends, and potentially most of the older generations might have looked at it skeptical. But when you look at it today, and looking at those numbers or like personal experience from our communities, it's like shaped across all different kind of ages or backgrounds, generational, whatever, because you have like people growing up with it, they understanding what is happening here, or even when they are not really into gaming and active gaming themselves, kind of can find ways to relate to it in other ways. When we are playing esports, for example, a lot of especially older people are not really into esports. Why is there like competitive gaming scene with tournaments and stuff? But they can relate to like the real life sports and see the things that are also happening there and understand those mechanic of subcultures and such. So it's getting like more and more known across different kind of subcultures and generations right now.
So how is it at Twitch? Have you noticed any generational changes?
Yeah, I think from a business perspective, gaming is just huge. It just goes strength to strength over the years as technology evolves. Number of people playing games, the volume of revenue users, that keeps increasing. As many of you know, gaming market is much bigger than the film industry put together. It's absolutely huge. And also with the proliferation of mobile phones, the age range of gamers has widened to like absolute crazy numbers. Obviously we had COVID, and as Twitch we highly benefited from COVID because our viewership more than doubled over COVID. Now, since we returned to office, some of us, that number hasn't really decreased as much as we feared it would be, and that trajectory keeps on increasing. So we know that gaming breaks boundary, for sure. I could be playing online game, League of Legends or whatever, with somebody in Japan, somebody in India, somebody in Russia, all at the same time, no politics, and obviously I'm extremely biased working at Twitch, but I think it's a very, very cool unifying medium. And it's very interesting to see, I think we'll go into a bit further, how the gaming medium is seeping into other medium that blends together to create new mix of interaction, and that builds a new community, which is something that we can talk into later. But obviously, Twitch was created about 14 years ago, primarily as a hobby website for esports. It was called Justin TV. And now Twitch has evolved into gaming. We've got sports, we've got cooking, we've got crypto, politics chat. We have an old lady that swears a lot and teaches you cooking from the Victorian era. There's something for everyone on Twitch. But gaming is still our heart and soul. About 70% of our Twitch traffic is pure gaming focused. And I certainly like to make sure that stays the same, or else I might be out of a job soon. But yeah, I love gaming, and I think gaming is such a great, important part of our everyday culture across all Asian customer segments.
Maybe to just add to the Twitch conversation and the people during COVID being more engaged. Actually, we saw that. I'm responsible for the community. And the way we see communities, because we do single-player games, so we don't engage in multiplayer, but we still provide a sort of campfire experience. So the game is the occasion that brings people together to discuss more. And during the COVID pandemic, we actually saw on Discord, which is also a very gaming-centric social media hybrid platform, I would say. Yes, or on Twitch, we saw that people came together that were stuck at home or that weren't able to have other connections, and actually gaming was kind of the catalyst for them keeping up a social life. So I do see it also, as you said, with Twitch, but also Discord. All kinds of gaming can bring people together.
So we've seen it, for example, with the sales for the Nintendo Switch and Animal Crossing. We've seen Among Us, all those games that grew really big with COVID. Would you say that after that people rediscovered gaming for themselves, or would you say it's something that has been going on for much longer?
It's been going on for much longer. I can't disclose any details, but it hasn't started with 2020. But for sure, of course, the graphs have grown in 2020, 2021, and then kind of like evened out in 2022. But the graph was already growing like this before. It's not that it was a sudden rise because people couldn't leave the house. It was people more and more discovering or rediscovering gaming. And then the pandemic probably just made it their primary choice of entertainment for a while, but it's not that it caused it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think what we've been seeing even before the pandemic is like people being like not so skeptical about gaming and potential negative effects of it, like they were like 10 years prior to this. If we look at like the Gamescom discussions back in the early 2010s, when there was like gaming equals shooting game equals killer games and such, this was basically the German media discussion back then. Even before COVID, we could see that some people were more open to it, or like talked about the positive effects, for example, being the community aspect, be it like gamification aspects in different or other industries, how people can benefit from it. And COVID just like I think you said like a catalyst for it, just like sped it up a bit, but it started very much earlier than that, I'd say.
But maybe to add to the relevance point again, like in 2007 or 8, Obama ran gaming, like ads, voting acts in games, right? Like he used games to digitally advertise himself and his party platform to convince people to vote for him, and that was in 2008. Angela Merkel came to Gamescom way before the pandemic, right? So this is not a surprising rise. It's been something that has been, for economic factors, job creation, also technology that comes from gaming and then gets used in other like areas. It's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah, I think I know we promised we're not going to talk politics today.
This is over
but
already.
I will. I can't help it. Touching on the U.S. election, I remember U.S. Congresswoman Andrea Cortez, AOC. She used Among Us to play with famous streamers. That was obviously part of her campaign, but that really resonated with the younger audience generation who don't typically vote, right? So obviously gaming was used for that platform. But going back to the spreading demographics of gaming, some of us here, I'm not pointing fingers, Jenny, I'm not pointing at anybody, who went to the local arcade when you were young, got a job, had children, no time for gaming, no time for fun, but through having your mobile phone, you have spare 20 minutes on the subway or the commute to work, you might have had a chance to rediscover gaming. Obviously, there's different types of gaming. You have the hardcore gamers who spend 3 hours, 4 hours a day playing games all day. You have the solitary types that want to get lost in the utopian world without any trolls, right? You have these community people who just love to connect with other, that's their thing, and you've got the housewives who just want an escape for 5 minutes. And I think gaming provides and helps cater for all types of audiences of all ages. So I think There's so much choices. I think gaming gets a little bit of a bad press when something bad happens in the news, but I think overall it's a really, really positive thing.
I think you're getting at an interesting point here, because it's not only the people, when do they find time for playing games and enjoy the gaming, just from the cultural aspect, or is it what goes beyond that, or when it's like it doesn't stop when your computer is turned off and you don't play the game anymore, because like the community aspect is so decentralized. You can go on your own subreddit of your game and connect and talk with people. You can still chat with the people you met in online gaming or like to play together via different kind of platforms or chatting tools. It's not just being the one person sitting there playing a single player game for 1 hour and then it ends there. It's like only the beginning or the entrance into a whole subculture depending on the game you're in. And this is where it gets interesting from a point of like the cultural aspects, because it's not only the gaming directly but more indirectly how you communicate around it, I think.
Yeah, and I think to leave behind the European perspective a bit, right? We're also forgetting about other parts of the world that maybe don't have access to certain hardware, don't have access to PCs, or where maybe the culture of gaming consoles wasn't that big. There are certain mobile games that in Brazil have more daily active users than we have gamers in Germany, right? Where like tens of millions of people play every day the same game. We always say kind of to unlock the Asian market, specifically China, right? There's millions of people there playing on mobile phones, now playing more and more on PC as well, which you see in sales numbers on Steam, for example. And everyone is kind of waiting what's happening when India discovers mobile gaming like as a stronger force, right? Because the more people you lift out, because you want it to be political, right? So the more people you lift out of poverty, the more people also have access to digital devices and also time to spend on gaming, right? Because ultimately that's a bit of a luxury as well, that you have time, disposable time to spend, and I think the development will only continue.
Yeah. I think okay, politics aside, let's talk geopolitics. I can't help it, I'm sorry. Let's talk about Germany. I like numbers, I like data. I look at what games the Germans are playing, okay, and I don't...
Simulation games with farming equipment.
Why
and windmills and trees.
Why is that? It's something I never understood.
We like going home from work and then we play simulators for work. It's right. How we are.
Yes, so the regional distinctiveness of what becomes a cultural norm, what games are very, very popular, what trends is very, very interesting to look from a data perspective. And we're always trying to adjust our marketing offerings and campaigns based on regional offerings. Obviously, within Europe, Germany is our biggest market, so we take German audiences at utmost seriousness. And when I have to report to my bosses in the US about the German love for simulation games and farming and tractors, I sometimes lose them in the first 5 minutes. But it is certainly an interesting perspective. I have to. It seems to stick. It's been there for a while.
It's been there for years. Yeah, you can, if you go home after today and you Google Gamescom farming simulator, you will see a hall full of people screaming at tractors. So it's a topic not to underestimate, right? But this is going further, like sticking with Brazil for a second. They are more social in their gaming and they gather around FIFA, which is now called EAFC, right? But they gather around football. We have more of the simulation thing for some reason. And then, for example, Korea, very skill-based gaming, right? Very skill-based approach, StarCraft, esports. I mean, that's your area of expertise, right? But so there is definitely a cultural component to what's successful where.
Also, like a really well planned out production and assembly line in like Factorio is just really satisfying. So I'm just trying to, defend simulations and maybe the one or other strategy and stuff games. I know it might seem boring to others, but it's kind of cool. We like it.
Hey, wait, are you German?
I am. How did you know?
I play City Skylines, so you're lost. It's,
Yes. So you've been talking a lot about accessibility to games as well. I mean, having the time, having a good quality internet, having a good device is all means that you need to play, and also the money to afford games. So would you say that with platforms like Discord, TikTok, Twitch, it has gotten more accessible? Because even if I can't play the game, or if I don't have time to play the game, or don't have the device, I can watch other people do it?
Yes, absolutely. I think obviously Twitch is free to use. You can place chats and all that kind of stuff without having to pay any money. There's a new form of entertainment where you actually watch people play. Stream games is really interesting. Especially very popular is watching somebody play a horror game whilst thousands of people are watching for you to be scared. You know it's coming, but you don't know when it's coming. And when they do get scared, we all just have a good old time laughing at the experience. So live streaming has obviously created a new way to enjoy games, new ways to interact with like-minded community. And that is certainly something I didn't see when I joined the games industry 20-something years ago. Definitely, it wasn't there. And when I have to explain to my mother what I do for a living, I just say, internet. And she's like, okay, go away. How about you, Melvin?
Yeah, I think it definitely gets more accessible via this. Coming from the influencer marketing background, what we see is not every game our content creator are playing is like the things that the communities are then buying and want to play themselves. Sometimes it's only about like the interaction, be it on stream or watching a video on YouTube or wherever platform you might use. So you can still be part of the gaming community and culture, however you define it, by being part of a community from specific content creators, for example, who are leaning very strongly into gaming many times. I think some like publishers or gaming industry notices this, which is the reason why like the influencer marketing plays a much bigger role in terms of marketing strategy for a lot of games than it did in the past. So it was just like the classic PR and trailer releases, which are important, but the influencer marketing can really reach those people on other areas of like the authenticity of a creator, how they show the game, what do you show the people who might potentially buy it is interesting. And you can leverage this to a commercial aspect, but you don't need to. You just can get like a lot of views and no sales at all, but still it is the community of people resolving around gaming at one point, I think.
Well, thank you so much for switching to the next topic I wanted to ask you guys about.
I have something small to add, though. It's not only that it's on the marketing side and the communication side, but it also influences, maybe that is your next question, though, but it does influence how games are being made in a certain way. Of course, not the creative core pillars of a game, but if you want to say, for example, not to talk about our own games, there have been games that have streamer modes, right? Or if the game has music, like real world music in it, it has copyright protection. Twitch and other platforms take down usually copyright protected content. So you have to make sure that even the games and the content of the games is streaming ready, right? You have rules in other countries that are not like USK, so not age rating related, but content display related. So the way we consume gaming content as a whole also influences how gaming companies have to approach making them, right? So it's this kind of symbiotic experience.
Yeah, I think part of my job is to onboard new developers to implement Twitch API into your games, because we know that the more people watch your game, the more people talk about your game, more people spread word of mouth marketing about your game, the more game sales it would lead to. So there's a lot of tools that I certainly try and promote. Companies like Carolyn's company to try and
It's not my company. I wish.
Yet.
To implement. So understanding that the game has to survive a long time on Twitch, the game has to have a lot of content available on YouTube, TikTok, etc., etc. That is having a profound impact on how games are designed from day one. I think, like for example, one of the most popular tools we have on Twitch is called Twitch Drops, where you reward viewers with an in-game item the more they watch. So it's like, come and watch my game for 30 minutes and I'll give you something from in the game. So something like that can't be added onto the game, very quickly. It has to be planned well in advance. And you and I had a lot of...
Yeah, we've worked together. That's why we know how long this takes.
Yeah.
And in addition to this, it's also, I don't remember the exact percentages, but I think this year or last year has been the year where gamers spent more time watching gaming content than actually playing video games, right? It was overtaken. So from a brand perspective, you have to accept the fact that some people will only get in touch with your brand through someone else's experience. So how someone experiences art or culture or however is impacting how someone else will experience the same art, right? So we as a company also have to think about, with companies like Mitsu's, how can we make the experience good if you're only watching it, right? Of course, games are meant to be played. I will stick to this. Games are an interactive art form, but we cannot go beyond the fact that some people will not experience them this way. So how do you make it enjoyable regardless, right?
Being like the influencer marketing agency we are, that turned into a publisher, we think about this very often. For many of the games that we decide to publish and work together with them, we not only look at them from like the business perspective, how do we make the go-to-market plan, etc., but like enhancing the streamability of the game in different ways. Meaning having impact on like how is the game made, how can you make things or interactions within the game, how it's displayed to be like streamable or clippable, for example. The horror games are a great example for this, where you can already from the beginning think about the jump scare being posted as a TikTok from a specific creator, which basically is marketing for your game. And at the same time, not only making it funny for the influencer as a consumer, but also providing options for them to make their own interactions with their community, for example, via Twitch extensions. We develop them ourselves for our games most of the time. It's like ways where you can involve the chat of a content creator that is playing your game, and by them having, like, for example, voting mechanisms or whatever, it goes way more complex than just that, and have impact on the game that is happening while the streamer is playing it. Meaning when it is like he's making a run in a game, the chat can decide on be it something good happening or something bad happening via a voting mechanism or something. This makes room for interaction without the people playing the game, but just by watching the stream. And at the end of the day, it's like making everybody happy, because a lot of more creators are going to stream your game because it's good content for them. The people like watching the game because it's not like a monologue you have to watch. You can interact, you can be part of the stream that you're watching, but a lot of, especially younger people, really are looking into. And you, as a developer, can integrate this to get marketing for your game, essentially, or you have people experience your game in way more ways than you could initially imagine, which is something I think is going to hopefully grow bigger in the future, because some games really did a great job on that, but it's something a bit niche, I'd say, for games to integrate this early on in their concept. But I'd be looking forward to see more of this, totally.
So, question to you, how do you find the balance? Because, you know, it does give a game a decent push to be very popular on on Twitch, because we've seen something like Repo. Like, people can do the best graphics, beautiful trees, great reflections, real-time everything, pretty as it can be. And then you have Repo, which is much simpler in graphics and has like 3 soup cans in different colors trying to rob a museum, and monsters going after them. So would you say, you know, if people are more and more consuming games over Twitch, over Discord, would you say that there can only be one or the other, or would you say that they can coexist, and how do you find the balance?
I think the simplest answer to this would be games should make fun in whatever way. It can be that it's like a beautiful, well-crafted, a lot of people working on it, double to AAA level of game. Could also be that like the Repo, Lethal Company's Only Up of the world, which just looking at the production value, it's not easy to make those games, don't get me wrong, but are like on another more indie, smaller level, but still a hell lot of fun to play or to watch someone play at least. I think combining those makes sense for every game. Some may be the best when they're like focusing on one of those aspects more and don't really try to make both sides happy and then just like disappointing both sides because they can't meet the things that people prefer, that enjoy the one or the other. But for most of the games, especially where people are like trying out new stuff, want to look into like the content creation, streamability things, I'd say both need to work someday, depending on what you want to achieve with your game also. If you want to have like the commercial hit and just want to sell big numbers, it would be another approach than if you're like, hey, I don't want to go into the revenue making part of it, but just want to have streamers play the game and make fun, you can have another game for this. So it's not really a definitive answer. At the end of the day, it's fun and balance, I'd say, that needs to be considered here most of the time.
Also, no shade to Repo. I love those soup cans. I think they're really cute. But I also watch like a goldfish play Pokemon Red on Twitch, so maybe I'm not the right person to talk about it. Caro.
No, I have 15 notes, I think, to what you said, but I will not make 14 of them.
Do you want my notes?
No. I think I disagree slightly that everyone would benefit from it, because if you think about games as an art form, which I like doing, I think there's also space for games that are not fun, right? There's games that are educational, there's games that deal with trauma, there's games that deal with civil war, there's games that are more like almost an interactive museum sort of thing. And if you look at Steam, what was the number for last year? 19,000 games came out on Steam, roughly. Of course, you're right that many of them that want to be a commercial success should integrate it in some form or another, but I think as we mature as an industry, there's space for everything. I don't think you disagree, by the way. I'm just saying I wanted to have it said out loud. That I think there's space for all of it. I do think that streamers, because you said that, you know, if you only want to make a game that creators play, that's also fine. We can argue that you need a certain kind of commercial success for streamers to even find your game, right? Because if you just make the game in your basement, to serve a horrible stereotype, very likely they will not even find it, because you still need some sort of outreach, some sort of support, right? So I don't know what my point was with this, I just wanted to add it.
Thanks for disagreeing.
Thank you.
I think if I look at where the money is being spent by consumers, which games, which game types, it seems the last maybe 10, 15 years, there's a lot of games we come to know as free-to-play games, you know, games like Fortnite that are very, very difficult to unseat for new challengers, right? So,
yeah,
as you can imagine.
The majority of game time nowadays is spent on games that are older than 5 years, right? So it's extremely hard to even make a commercially viable game nowadays, because lots of people are locked in, and there's this statement, can I say it? Yes, that the competition of gaming companies is TikTok. The competition is not other gaming companies, the competition is Netflix, is TikTok, is whatever vies for your time.
Yeah, so whilst developers, publishers are fighting for consumers' money, our audience are evolving into, for example, they might be watching a game on Twitch, but using one of the cool chat features, mic features on Discord on the side, and you know, and posting things on Instagram and Snapchat, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very difficult to keep up. But I think the lesson is game companies and publishers has to understand where the trend is moving, and you know, don't fight that. So it's quite interesting you say that about, you know, when I joined Twitch, I used to think, oh God, you know, we have to beat Facebook, we have to beat YouTube. But now the attitude is shifting more towards how do we beat Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat?
To be clear, I think it's not every company's like task, because it's also, if you have a certain target audience and you know who you're making the game for, you don't have to reach everyone, right? You have to, if you reach only a couple of million, sorry, it's the AAA in.
Wow.
But if you reach hundreds of thousands of people, maybe that's also good enough, right? As long as you can be commercially successful as a company. So I know the threshold has shifted a bit, but I think not every movie is for everyone, and not every game has to be for everyone too, right?
So the currency in the end is our attention.
Yeah.
And well, one thing to gather our attention is watching people play it or talk about it that they like, which is what you do. You have influencers that talk about games occasionally.
Sorry, what?
That you have influencers that talk about games
We do.
occasionally, sometimes.
They do most of the time.
They do most of the time. So how do influencers come into play with this? Because we need to like watching them, but it's always helpful also to shine a light on maybe smaller productions, maybe indie studios that haven't been seen before.
I think this highly depends on the content creator you're talking about. There are a lot of creators that really have like passion about gaming, just looking at it a way that it's not only the big commercial aspect, but obviously it is part of arts, it is some kind of cultural aspect to it, and just want to show to their audience the everything gaming has to offer, essentially. Others that are really looking into, okay, variety gaming, I want to find the next demo on Steam, which are made by some indie developers, which is the part where us as indie publishers sometimes come into play. So this completely depends on the content creator. Others are just like playing one game only, being like one of the best at it, or very entertaining about it, and just play League of Legends for 12 years straight and just never want to touch another game. Meaning it highly depends on the creator and what they're looking into, because at the end of the day, some time ago, every creator was just one person enjoying what they do and looking into like sharing it with others. And when there is like a passion for like gaming in whatever way, and then he or her and his community grows, this just gets bigger. You can't really take it out of the creator and push it in other directions, because then it will lose like authenticity and stuff, which is something that most creators shouldn't do, I'd say that.
Also, it seems like a bit more of a hen and the egg problem, because if I talk to streamers, they try to find what's popular on Twitch, what's popular on Steam, but then they themselves are making it popular as well. So who is first? You don't have to.
No, I want
okay,
to, because we're trying to make a growth hack with this. Because being like the creator agency, having the creators in our agency and being in contact with them, when we like publish an indie game, we are looking to have bigger creators like being the first to stream then, and then from there on, like the ball gets rolling, and other creators have seen it. Hey, the category on Twitch pops up, or this YouTube video is going viral and gets a lot of attention, and then others are starting to kind of not copy the trend, are getting more interested in it. And when there is like a game that is good content, for example, via this Twitch extension stuff we talked about, why not do it yourself for you and your audience? Because when there would be like a game that gets popular by a big streamers, but it wouldn't be great content, or it wouldn't be a great game, it's just like some big company paying a lot of streamers a lot of money to play it, I don't think there would be such of an organic other pickup by this. The game still needs to be streamable to some way if you're just looking at the content creators on Twitch, at least.
Caro, you had something to add?
Yes, but maybe we can also, I think creators and streamers are very important, and I don't want to take away from this, but I think there's even more ways we can talk about gaming and like digital cultures and conversations, because, for example, community also influences how games are made and how we make games, and that's the specific thing that we have done, is that, of course, you have to listen to players, but then they impact how you develop, right? So you take people's feedback, you add other features. Multiplayer games are excellent at that, when they introduce new heroes, new classes, balancing. We added a radio station of our community's music into the game with their consent, obviously. Or on the topic of accessibility, right? You also have experts in your community on everything from like color blindness to motion disabilities that also help you develop solutions that then get taken out of gaming into other social applications, let's say. So I have things to say, but I would like to move to other parts.
Move away.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think the community piece is really interesting because the top 3 most popular games on Twitch are games like, you know, League of Legends, Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto. And especially in Grand Theft Auto and Minecraft, they have what they call RP servers, role-play servers, right, where people just do whatever they want. They'll just create a little sandbox, and I think developers intentionally created a game to allow community to just drive the content rather than having to create DLC or patch or whatever so often. They just let give the community the tools and let them run with it.
Yeah, because I think next to creators, which again are very important, next to creators, UGC is the big keyword, like user-generated content. I don't know how many people here have heard of Roblox, but Roblox has more users than I think Sony and Xbox and Nintendo combined at the moment. It's a juggernaut that almost no one is aware of because it's the kids that play it, not the adults usually. And the whole platform is built around people making their own experiences, right? We have developed and released modding tools where our players can make their own versions, their own quest lines, their own content for our games. Minecraft works the same. It's a giant hit, which is why Microsoft acquired it, where people create their own content to play in, right? So introducing and involving community in the development of video games is at least as big as getting creators to talk about it.
I think especially for like the Roblox example, you called it a platform, which is absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's not just the game from the UCG perspective. And a lot of people like from outside of the gaming industry tend to notice that and just like, how can we, I don't know, leverage is to get in touch with those people and young audiences playing it. For Roblox or Fortnite or those kind of games, we've seen like the music industry, big musicians making concerts within a Fortnite event and just like having a live gaming concert, you could say. But a lot of people like joining those within Fortnite and like interacting with them. So this is where like it's not like gaming and music and film, everybody is like within its own culture. The things are beginning to shift, or there is not really a border between it, especially for those big platforms where you can essentially make anything you want if you have like the users making the content for this.
Yeah, I like the way how gaming is cross-pollinating with brands, like, you know, Fortnite, Balenciaga, that kind of stuff. You know,
I said Adidas because of my shoes,
yes.
sorry.
There's been a lot of cross-collaboration, which has been really interesting. Recently at Twitch, we hosted a live stream with Jack Black because he was promoting the new Minecraft movie. So he did a live stream there. We promoted the game, promoted him as a content creator. We have F1 drivers like Lando Norris, who streams on Twitch when he's just waiting around for the rain to stop or something. You know, we had Post Malone, who's a crazy big gamer. He just came on the show on stream, you know, 5 hours non-stop. Like, you know, he's actually a good gamer. So it's interesting the cross-collaboration that's happening, and consumer brands are noticing the business opportunity platforms like Twitch can give access to what we call the Generation Z, right, where traditional marketing methods have been unable to penetrate through that segment. So it's interesting to see that kind of collaboration.
I said it a bit nonchalantly, right? But our company, we've collaborated with Adidas, we collaborated with Porsche. The big brands are noticing gaming in a very, very big way. So I can only agree.
Don't forget Keanu Reeves.
I wanted to not mention it, but yes, so Keanu Reeves was also in the game, right? And it was an extremely good collaboration, because many people couldn't believe he would work with us, but he saw that gaming ultimately is storytelling, at least the kinds of games we make, right? So if the story is good, does the medium matter?
I have to say it, you could say it was breathtaking, wasn't it? Talking about incorporating brands in games, because it happened like for quite a while, it happens even more. Now we've got Sabrina Carpenter on Fortnite, who is not a brand but a person, but you can argue, you know, she brands herself. Then you have something like a Post Malone who's in Hunt, if I remember correctly. Yes, and then you have all those skins for Call of Duty. But where do you draw the line? Because where I work in the gaming journalism bubble on YouTube, people often get frustrated with Call of Duty not being, you know, Call of Duty-y enough, because there's Nicki Minaj running around in neon pink outfits, and they don't want to see Post Malone in Hunt because they have like this certain idea of how the game should be, which is, you know, ideas of people how a game should be is always something that you can talk about for a longer time. But where do you guys think? Do you cross? No, not cross the line, but is there an English version for it?
Draw the line.
Draw the line. That's it. Thank you.
I will not speak for other developers, right? Because I think every company has to decide for themselves how they want to pursue it and how they want to approach it. In our case, we wanted to be authentic and we wanted to make sense. So Keanu Reeves, for example, was a great fit for many reasons, but also because he has performed in roles that would fit, right? So we want to approach it from a cohesive standpoint. What we are doing, again, to move a bit away from US/German conversations, we're working a lot with creators and celebrities in different regions that only these regions would recognize. So, for example, in Cyberpunk, we had a lot of stars from Italy, Japan, Korea, China, Brazil, Germany, and everyone thought, oh, that's nice that they had one person only for my country, because they didn't recognize any of the other celebrities. Right? So instead of picking the ones that everyone would recognize, which of course we had some, you would supplement it with regional celebrities, and then everyone would see one, and we're like, they didn't exaggerate. But in reality, there were like more than a dozen, but everyone just saw one or two. Right? So that's also an approach that we have followed, at least with the past, so that's how we like to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to even really draw a line here. So obviously you can define what's the core of gaming. Is this something that is whatever an event planned just for the brand and commercial aspects, or something about like the core gaming and art of gaming. But at the end of the day, you see that things are getting mixed right now, which isn't only a bad thing, I'd say. Obviously there are potentially will be some sell-out, whatever stuff that you can critique on, but when there is like a big brand making a game and it makes fun, or gamification elements, for example, appearing in other aspects, not only need to be commercial, you have something, why do you want to limit it to just this, as long as you don't disrespect the kind of art? So really like the authentic approach you need to keep in mind for this. But I think if you wouldn't do so, it would potentially backfire, and it did so in the past for some brands who tried it out, I think. So keeping to that is what I'd also draw the line potentially.
Yeah, for me, I agree with Carol on this. I think it's up to the developers and publishers to choose which celebrity they want to use for their campaign. But I think on Twitch side, at least, Twitch is driven by communities, and communities seek authenticity and genuineness. So just because I bring Kevin Hart, the funny comedian, doesn't necessarily might not resonate well with the game's DNA, so that isn't going to work. Although some marketer might feel, oh, it must have worked because look at the big spike in viewership. But I think looking at the long-term appeal of the game, we do tend to see any collaboration has to be taken with a very, very careful selection. But for Twitch, at least on Twitch, what I see is authenticity within the community is what's really, really important.
So we've been talking a lot about, you know, brands and music appearing in video games, movies, even depending on what game you play. So there are two like really big industries that have been around for longer but are now smaller. So do you think there are pieces and maybe learnings that the video game industry can take from the other two, from movies or from music? For example, like localization, right? The Beatles did like a whole album in German, I just heard. That was very...
I didn't understand the question. It didn't reach, the last sentence didn't reach me.
Oh, sorry, I mumble. I'm sorry. So do you think that there are some parts that the gaming industry can take from the music and the film industry?
I'm not sure if it's a good idea, but I personally wish that this would happen. When you look at like movies or music, very often you have like, when there is like a big movie coming up, people concentrating, oh, this and that actor is going to be involved. These are the people making it a great movie, or this and that singer is going to make a great song. It's going to be a great album. And for games, we very rarely have those being like people being in the spotlight that really make those games. Meaning, obviously, we talk a lot about content creators, like where I'm coming from, but we're like showing the games. We're not like the people making it. There are like few exceptions for like, hey, the Hideo Kojima makes great storylines, is someone most people might know in gaming, but we don't really celebrate the people who really make those games or like having an influence on that outside of the gaming bubble. And I personally wish at least that this would be more of a thing, because I think they deserve such great audience.
Yeah, I agree, because if we we want to talk about a game that people haven't heard before, and there's someone involved from a different game, we title with "from the makers of," because they've heard about the game before, so they might know the quality or the engagement involved. What do you guys think? Do you think they can take something, or would you say it is the other way around, maybe?
I think that our industry has actually taken quite a lot in the past from the movie and music industry, and also other industries, because there's also a lot of board games, a lot of like interactive choose your own adventure book kind of thing. So I think we have taken a lot of inspirations over the past, in the good and the bad. Like some things maybe we shouldn't have taken, some things we did. And I think we're at the point where the others are looking more to us than we are looking to them, which is something I can say with confidence from the conversations that you hear in the industry, you hear at conferences, questions you're being asked. So I think now people are looking more to the games industry. That doesn't mean that we can't still look towards other industries, right? Everyone can learn from everyone. About what you said, I agree. And for example, we do podcasts with people from our team, right? We do streams where we show them. But it's very difficult because games are made by so many people. Like in our case, our company, we have more than one game in the making, so it's not that all of them work on the same, but we have more than 1,000 people. Who do you highlight? Who made the game, right? There's so many people making such highly specialized segments of the game where they only polish the back of a car for 6 years, right? So I agree. I wish there was more transparency. I wish there was more celebration. I think it's just very difficult when there's so many. There's not the one director. There's not the one person that made it, right? Which in movies there also isn't. I think in movies there's a bit of an over-focus on directors, but yeah.
So maybe you already did take that, We're already just talking about the directors. We need to correct that.
Yeah, because did Steven Spielberg make the movie, or did the 500 people in the back that set up the cameras and everything make the movie, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the games industry over the last 30, 40 years have taken a lot from the film industry, cinematography, how to use lighting techniques, how to use camera work. The cutscenes in CDPR's games are like cinema, whether it's photogrammetry, realistic models, facial captures, everything is like film production. So I think it's more towards I don't think it's like an isolated, siloed industry. I think there's ways to combine the communities together, because I like games, but I like music, but I also like cinema. So there are overlaps that is there to be, I think, to kind of exploit and produce a brand new experience for consumers. I think for me that's the way to go, because we might get old, but there's always going to be games, there's always going to be cinema, there's always going to be new music around. So if there's a way to co-promote different things, including technology and the cool culture that you've got here, I think that could be a nicer way of framing this.
Yeah. And I think actually we've gone full circle, because now animation movies are based often on Unreal Engine, which is a video gaming engine, right? So now the technology has kind of gone full circle. Yes.
Talking about full circle, we are close to being done here. And as it is with gaming, as it is with big productions, also it's not just us here, it's all the people in the back doing all the production for us, otherwise you wouldn't even be able to hear me. So thanks a lot for making us heard. Also thanks a lot for organizing this and inviting all of us to Gamesground, and also the Medien Board Berlin-Brandenburg. Thanks. Do you guys have any last sentences you would like this talk to end with? Is everything said?
I just close it with, if you don't play games, play more games. Explore those communities, explore those cultural aspects. It's great. It's so many awesome people in there. And I personally really think I wouldn't want to live without those anymore.
Yeah, I think maybe a hot statement. No one would ever say, oh, I don't listen to music, and oh, I don't watch movies, and I wish for a future where it's also not, oh, I don't play games, because I think everyone would have a game that they like if they gave it a chance. So probably, we have to work on getting the right games to the right people. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I think gaming's a great medium. It's no longer some kind of niche interest that, only boys, men play. I think there's something for everyone, for sure. And I think it's quite a healthy community. It's very, very vibrant. It's always evolving. It's very, very open, welcoming as well. So I think if there's an interest, this is a gaming genre that you like, and you haven't joined Twitch, I certainly wish you would join Twitch, for sure. And yeah, if anybody has any questions for any of us after this, just come and grab us. There's not that many Oriental guy wearing purple t-shirt in here, so just come and grab me afterwards.
Thank you guys so much for sharing your insights. Thank you guys so much for listening, and that's it. Have a good day.